You know, your teacher, your fucking uncle and your mum all said, be yourself, you'll be fine. So should have listened then. So I did this exercise in the middle of this cafe and Tim's bright red and we go running down the alleyway after like two schoolgirls.
Welcome to another episode of the CG Show. With me today, the CEO of Ledlin Develop, Mr. Oscar Ledlin. He's made a great name for himself in developing industrial property across southeast Melbourne, and it's an absolute pleasure for him to take some time out of his busy schedule to join us here today. Welcome, Oscar. How are we?
Mate, that just reminds me of a fight introduction. That was fantastic. When's the bell gonna ring? I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Mate, every time I have to get into those, like, and every time you're just listening to it, you're just feeling good. You're like, ooh.
I can start dancing and rocky music coming on in the background. That was good.
Pretty much. And I'm really glad that you've joined us because, you know, I've been following your journey. We met a couple of years ago through Leo, and I've been following your journey ever since. You've been a really big inspiration for my brother Aaron, and watching what you've been doing is just insane. You've been transforming the industry, and the best thing about you is you're just a good bloke, and you don't hold anything back. Like, you're not one of those guys that you don't really have secrets. I'm sure you do, but you don't. But if you have something, and you're always there to help, and I'm sure there's people that hit you up on Instagram and social media all the time, and you're always there, and which is amazing. So thank you so much for coming. And there's a lot to get through today. So I'm gonna start with, like, why and how did you get into developing? Yeah.
So firstly, thank you for more kind words. You've got me all flustered, but I got into development. I'm a concreter by trade. So I grew up working weekends, school holidays, stuff like that for my dad, who had a concreting company. I then went on to do a business commerce degree at Monash, and I just sort of was inspired by a very small introduction to property development through the concreting industry. So it was a residential introduction. I would see sites from the foundations up. We would go and pour the foundations of the property, and then we would come back and they would have built the townhouses, the unit complexes, the apartments, whatever it may be, and we'd do the driveways and some of the landscaping, concrete finishes on the end, and I would see the transformation, and I was really inspired by that. So that's what sparked the interest. The commercial over residential entry was pretty much just a circumstance that come about and really flourished. So I finished uni, and my dad said to me and my older brother, who was working for my dad as well at the time, he said, boys, if you're interested, the company's yours for the taking. I think you should start learning the ropes of the business side of it and get set for to take it as your own in the future. And I said to Dad, I really appreciate the opportunity, Dad, but it's not for me. I'm getting as far away from the concrete as I can. I've had enough to last me a lifetime. I'm getting into property development. So he was sort of like, yep, all right, I believe you, sort of. And my employment with him as a concreter was solid. I was safe to rest on that. But I'd saved about 50 grand through uni. I was working part-time for Dad. I was working about 40, 50 hours a week while studying. And I had a couple of other part-time jobs as well. So I had scoped a little duplex site near a neighbouring suburb of where I lived. And I went to the bank to buy the site. I had my deposit. And I nearly slapped it on the table. I was that confident. Like, I was really almost arrogant about what I was doing. I was
ready to rock and roll.
Mate, I was young and stupid, and I thought I was the balls because I'd managed to save 50 grand at 21 years old. Like, I thought I was the tits, but it wasn't to be. I couldn't show serviceability. Yeah. And at the time, like when my application didn't even start. It was like a pre-app meeting, and she's like, you can't show serviceability. I'm like, the fuck does that mean? I'm not here to service anyone. You're not showing serviceability right now. Get me the manager. But so she said, part-time, casual employment, sporadic income. The bank you can't demonstrate that you're going to be able to make the mortgage repayments. And I was like, but I've got the deposit. Yep, didn't matter. So
pricks.
Yeah. I was pretty disappointed, but I said, like, how can I get this over the line? She said, well, you can use your deposit and have somebody else demonstrate serviceability. So I was like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do here. But I left, and a few bits and pieces transpired. I registered the company and fucked around with that, which didn't work either. And then I went to my old man. I said, listen, Dad, I'm getting into development. It's not I'm trying, I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, I've got the deposit, I've got the site, I've already scoped it out. It's a walk in the park, which it wasn't. Said, do you want to be?
You've already made the money. I can see
it.
it.
I'm counting the money. I'm already looking for the next site, Dad.
Yeah.
All I need is for you to show serviceability on this loan. And he said, listen, I'm happy to partner with you, but let's do something commercial so we can pour the concrete, save some money, generate some work for his concrete company. So the duplex was pushed to the side immediately. We formed a partnership and we set our intentions on commercial. So we then found a commercial site. It was small. It was fucking extremely difficult, but it ended up having an incredible outcome. And that was what sort of generated the introduction to commercial, and then the momentum that we got from that first site. It was a very part-time thing while still working for my dad's business, being employed by him alongside my brother, till it got to the point where I said, like, I'm going full-time into development. I don't need that employment anymore. See you later, bro. Dad, I'm going this way. And
Phantom, God.
And that was the transition into full-time development. Now I lead a team of, I touched on it before, incredibly talented individuals, young and old, and we've got set our sights on selling 100 properties this year. So pretty happy with where we're going.
So someone that wants to get into development, and I think that's just standard. Every time you speak to someone, I want to be a developer. I want to be a developer. And as you said, you thought it was going to be a walk in the park when you just got into it. But what actually goes into it? Like, how is it so hard to be a developer, and what does it actually take?
Yeah, I think it's important to consider there's like such a depth to this industry, and there's so many mum and dad developers, there's so many professional employed developers, there's like a lot of part-time developers, and it's a totally different setup to guys like the big developers that the smaller ones like myself, where we're doing it full time and we're managing equity and we're managing moving from one project to the other, hurdles, delays, all these things that have to be considered when you've got the operating costs of a business, right? So to speak to the part-time side of it, I think it's less complex, but the actual property development side of it is still incredibly complex, and then running a business is totally different. But I think the fundamental side of it is you need, like, there's a high barrier to entry with capital, right?
Yeah.
We're not buying wood, timber, scrap metal. We're buying property. So these are large asset purchases. We need a large amount of equity or capital to get started. So that's the first big barrier to entry. And then from there, it's really picking expertise from so many different industries, right? So you've got to be able to work the feasibility side of it. So you need to have a business understanding of, like, profits, sales coming in, expenses going out, profits, time value of money, opportunity cost, all those business fundamentals, you need those. Then you need the planning knowledge. You need to know, if I buy this site and I want to go build townhouses on it, and then it's a commercial site, or it's an industrial site, or like it's not possible, council's not going to let it happen. So you need to understand the planning side of it, which in my description just then, it seems simple, but it's like, if you can fit 10 townhouses on a site, or 8, at 10, the deal's feasible. At 8, it's not. So it's not a matter of what can you do. It's a matter of how much, how it's all going to work. From there, you need construction knowledge, right? If you're doing built form, if you're building an end product, be it a house or an office or a shop like this or whatever studio, you need to understand construction. What is the cost of the construction? If I can buy a site for $1 million, build a townhouse, how much is it going to cost? Is it going to cost another $1 million? I don't know. I need to understand construction. Yeah. Then we need to understand the sales side of it. 5 townhouses in Northcote, what are they going to sell for? Different to 5 townhouses in Geelong. I know that.
Yeah.
So you got to understand the markets and how each market's different. Then you need the capability to manage the process from start to finish and be sure that you're going to be left with some profit at the end. So I'm of course incredibly biased, and I don't understand every industry, but I think it's an incredibly complex industry. People simplify it, like they simplify residential property investment, which we'll get into later. You buy houses, they go up. It's easy as that. People liken property development to that, but it is a very complex industry, and it is incredibly competitive in Australia.
Yeah, and that's something what we touched off camera, even, for example, to trying to buy some land, how hard it is at the moment, because sites, they come up on the market, they're gone in an instant, or, for example, they're done off market through channels, and the land is so scarce. People looking to get into commercial or residential. How do you determine a good site from a bad site? What are you looking for?
I think the feasibility is probably the first place to start. How much money do you need to carry the job from start to finish? And do I have that money? Right now, if I was looking at a site for $100 million and then $300 million worth, I don't have $400 million. I'm going to look away from that site. So the first thing is, do I have the financial capacity to deliver?
I think you got to have a chat to the bank manager.
Yeah. Get old Doris back on the phone. Yeah, I think the first thing is the financial capacity, and then the second thing is the development potential. If I jumped into a residential tower of 400 apartments in the CBD, I would be broke before I start. I don't understand that. So I think for people breaking into the market, you need to start with the softest entry to the market. And I feel like with my relative knowledge of the residential market, it's buying a knockdown that can be leased. So you're buying an investment, essentially, with a tenant in there that's going to help you cover the mortgage repayments, and then begin exploring, or hopefully you've already explored, the development potential of that site. Can I fit 2 townhouses on there, 3 townhouses? What are they worth? What are they going to cost to build? So I think the softest entry would probably be a residential knockdown for a duplex site.
And then what's really good about commercial is, so with residential, you buy the property and then you got to put your plan in for 12 months, and then they'll come back, and obviously you fingers crossed you can get it approved. With commercial, you can buy the site and then straight away you can start selling, because you can then, while it's settling, you can start selling, because don't you move, you can start just moving people around. How does that work?
I mean, it's essentially the same as residential. I think it's just different developers' approaches, and mine is very strategized and it's very unorthodox, and every time I do that, which is every campaign, people throw their hands in the air and say, what the fuck are you doing? You're selling, you haven't even got a permit. So from my understanding of the real estate laws, it can be done in residential as well. But essentially, if we have a plan for 80 office warehouses, an office complex, a couple of different product types, we will know when we submit the plan to council which ones are at planning risk.
Okay.
So 60 of the units, they're fine.
Okay.
The other handful on this end, another handful on that end, they're a grey area, they might change. And beyond those ones, they might get cut off altogether. So we can start a marketing campaign very early on, knowing that there's a safe group in the middle. And it's to liken it, if you bought a 40 townhouse site, you might know that you're going to get 30. You need 35, you want 40, but you're definitely going to get 30. So you can start selling those 30 very early on. So I think that we just manage that process differently to everybody else. And because we pride ourselves in knowing the detail, right? We get very involved in the sales process with our agents. We have an internal construction company. We know the cost. We get very involved in the planning process, and we understand where the planning risks lie. We don't just give a plan to an architect and a planner and say, get us what you can get. We say, this is what we want. We know where the risks lie because we've learnt the process, and we understand the different councils' requirements and desires. So we just manage that process differently, that's all.
Wow. And how does someone invest in commercial real estate? So how much do they need, and how does it work? Like, what's the difference compared to residential?
Yeah, it's even, I laugh at this question because it is almost identical. And I would say identical, but I'm worried that there might be some tiny little thing someone's going to catch me out and say, you didn't think of that. Yeah, GST. It is very, very similar to investing in a residential property. You find the site that you like. It's being sold by an agent. It's typically an identical contract of sale to purchase it. 5 or 10% deposit, balance on settlement. You need to find somebody to lease it. How the fuck are you going to do that? I don't know anyone. You don't know anyone. Well, we go to a real estate agent. They'll find someone for us. They'll charge us a fee out of the rent that they get, and then they'll manage it for a clip. It's so close to identical to residential. There's a few differences along the way. The biggest one is probably funding and lease terms. A slightly higher funding requirement for the banks in commercial, slightly shorter lease terms than typical in residential. So there's a few, schematics there that are to be considered, but it is largely the same.
Why do you think that there's just not, why is there a stigma with commercial in regards?
It's the best kept secret.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like we've just been brought up, the Australian dream is buy a house. Everyone you speak to is just buy a house. And Yeah, I think it's crazy that the awareness that's going out to commercial with, especially what you've been doing in industrial, you're really waking people up. And
Bro, I'll go on record and say that the Australian dream is broken.
Yeah.
And I've touched on this a lot, and I can go into it in different depths, and I've explored it with people that only have a basic understanding. I've explored it with people that have been passionate about residential investment for 30 years, and they're going, holy fuck. For so many reasons, I think residential property investment is overrated, and I think the pressures that have been bestowed upon us by previous generations to get a property are unfounded, unevidentially founded. You know, it's almost a race out of high school to see who can be the first one from our graduating year to commit to a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I want to go to Europe. I want to meet a girl. I want to do all this other shit. But no, I'm going to find the first job that I can, the most stable job that I can, so then I can commit to making these monthly repayments for 30 years.
It's crazy, isn't it?
You explain to somebody that doesn't have this precondition towards the Australian dream, they'll be like, why the fuck would you want to do that? Keep the money in your pocket. You know.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, even I was speaking to he's a pretty big developer, and we're touching on this, and he does a lot of stuff in America as well. And he just said to me, he's like, Christian, he's like, in Australia, he's like, this is just how we've been brought up. In America, well, where there are people investing in tech, there's people investing in all these other different areas of business, but everyone here in Australia, it's just how we've been brought up. Everyone.
100%. A friend of mine, he's got a tech startup, and he was saying the same thing. In America, your seed funding for your tech startup or any startup company is a friends and family funding round. And not knowing that, like, if somebody come to me and said, I'm starting a business, can I have some money? I'd be offended. Yeah. But in other cultures, you know, people divest their investments into multiple things. In Australia, the first thing we do is commit to a mortgage, and then we're almost forced to be blind from other opportunities because such a high portion of our income is, 100% of our savings near on has been put to the deposit from day one. And then such a large portion of our income is already committed to this mortgage that we don't have the opportunity or room for such investments as startups.
I'm glad that you're talking about this, because I'm sure, well, I get it all the time. Messages, people, I'm really interested in buying my first house. That's my goal. That's my aim. And me, I always think, I don't think it's, for some people, it's not even worth it. Like, it's not even worth them doing that, because they hold themselves back from, as you said, so many opportunities for business, so many just happiness opportunities.
Yeah.
They're so constrained by what their parents have told them, or what their best friends couple, the best friends, they're a couple, and they went and bought a place, and they literally hold themselves back. Their happiness is actually being affected by this as well.
Yeah, and I think we've acknowledged that. I'll sit here for 2 hours in shit can residential, but there are people where buying a home is the right choice. They want that perceived security of knowing that they're not succumbing to a landlord. They know where they're going to be for the next 10 years. They know where they have to be for the next 10 years. You know, and that's fine. And I've been voicing my opinion recently on this, and I'm copping a bit of flack from some people that, buying a house is the best decision I ever made. I agree, it was for you. But I'm just saying that it's not for everybody, and that's what I want us to consider, is that buying your home or buying an investment property from a young age, it shouldn't be bestowed upon you, and you shouldn't be, you know, slandered by your family for not going down that path. And for all the reasons, you know, I'm the first one to say don't buy a resi, buy commercial, because I have a not so hidden agenda for that. But I'm also like, don't buy either if you're not in the circumstance to do so. And particularly with your home, like the commitments that we mentioned of, you know, you're 21 years old, you buy a home, all right, you bought an apartment, now you've met a girl. Fuck, is there room in your one-bedroom apartment? Oh, yeah, all right, we'll make room. She wants to get a dog. Well, you can't move house because you've just committed to, at least 5 to 7 years of owning that property to get back stamp duty and sales fees and all that sort of stuff. All right, now she wants to have kids. Well, fuck me, 3 years, your life has completely changed, which is very typical at that period of age, and you've made this commitment. Like, it has to be, I know it's a drainer. I get feedback from friends, family, strangers of how much a drainer this commitment can be. So I'm just saying, let's just look into it a little bit further.
I agree. I think people should be doing what makes them happy, and not being so tied into some bullshit story that they were told by their friends and family, or something that was, the Australian dreams, and to call it. if they wanted to invest, now obviously I'm a residential agent. You're on the commercial end.
Yeah, I'm biting my tongue.
Why should someone be investing in commercial? Like, what's why? Like, how do you see it as a benefit? If they want to live somewhere, they obviously can't live in commercial, but if they want it as an investment, why?
Yeah, so I think that point is the first thing to mention is that a commercial property, if you're financially stable or you have the financial aptitude to make an investment, well, if it's not your home, straight away you're removing all those limitations that we talked about being geographically bound when we get a new job, or being bound to an apartment when we really need a backyard for our future kids, and all these sort of things. So that's removed straight away. And then I just compare financial performance of the two investments. And we're talking commercial property. The umbrella of commercial property includes so many different property types, like the one we're in now, different offices, studios, retail, warehousing, storage, different, there's childcare, there's service stations. There's so many different commercial assets, and we're sort of binding them now. But as a general rule, commercial assets or commercial property investment trumps residential, 3-4 to 1. Like, it's incredible, particularly at the moment.
And then, okay, let's industrial. I think over the last 5 years, industrial's probably doubled. Would you say, the figures?
I think a lot of the statistics are saying that it has more than doubled in the last 5 years. Okay. I think it's doubled in the last 3. Okay,
wow.
Yeah, and we had this conversation earlier. I think there's a fundamental shift happening. I think it's largely fueled by the internet. It's been exacerbated by COVID. I think that it's going to double again in the next 3 years. So, I'm very enthusiastic about the industrial, commercial too property market, and we'll see what happens.
What do you see? So what's coming? So during COVID, how were you affected? And who's been coming to your business parks? Who's buying in? Why is industrial blowing up?
Yeah, well, I think for the last 10 years, it's because of the internet. The internet come in, e-commerce was created by the internet, and that just created this demand for people buying properties at home. Those properties need to be imported or manufactured. They're either manufactured in Australia or they're made in China, and then they're stored when they get to Australia. So that just created demand for warehousing, right? And then COVID amplified that, because at one point e-commerce shopping was the only shopping. So the demand on warehousing and manufacturing space within Australia was enormous, and that was just a huge surge in the industrial. That surge has been going for the last 10 years. It's been dramatic in the last 12 months. The secondary, not in order, but just in the way that I'm going to present it, I think it's even more impactful, but it's probably less talked about, is the demand from digital marketing. And these are businesses that have traditionally been in a retail space. If you're going to buy a mountain bike, right, you're not going to drive down the main street of Northcote and see a mountain bike shop and go, shit, I'm going to buy a mountain bike. You're scrolling through Instagram and an ad pops up and says, Christian, do you want to buy a mountain bike? And you're like, fuck, I want to buy a mountain bike. So the desire or the value in being on this main road in Northcote now isn't there, because you've been bought to this this product by digital means, so they don't need that street presence. So what that has done is allowed these shop owners who were paying premium pricing for foot traffic, they're not getting the foot traffic anymore, they're getting digital traffic. So now they can pay a lesser price in an industrial area that has more accessibility to parking, more public open space, more greenery, easy accessibility for customers, and they're still targeting their customers just through different means. So that is driving this demand for industrial premises away from retail, I might add.
Yeah, well, there's real estate agencies moving into business parks. There's everything. Obviously, cafes have been there. Gyms are coming through. Everyone's just moving there. It's so much cheaper.
Yeah, we've got IT companies, we've got mortgage brokers, we've got real estate agents, we've got a jeweler who's just moved in.
Oh wow,
jeweler. We've got all the automotive. We've just got so many. We've got artists that they're setting up different displays. We've got businesses now that are putting trading hours on the front window of their warehouses. So Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., they're capturing an audience, and they're capturing it so much so that they're putting, they're identifying their trading hours on the front of their building.
That's
so
crazy. There's
this whole shift, and we're excited to be involved in it.
Oscar's at the forefront. He's going hard. How was COVID? Now, you said obviously it's been great over the 12-month period, but when things were locking down, you had obviously deals to make. There was a lot going on. What was happening?
Yeah, so I can speak specifically for our results. I can acknowledge that the market as a whole was slightly different to us. We had a lot of stock leading into the start of COVID, and that had a lot of pressure on us as a company. So we sat down and first I acknowledged that we're in the financial position that we can have 12 months off and no one's going hungry, no one's losing their job. You know, the business will support, me included, for 12 months if need be. So if the country locks down, we're going to be all right. That was the first thing, pressure's removed. The next thing was, I don't want to fucking do that. Like, I don't want to have a 12-month holiday. I don't want to sit at home and wonder what the fuck's going on. I want to have business as usual as possible given what's going on in the world. So I said, let's turn our attention to how we're going to sell these things. There was no constraints on construction at that point, so we didn't need... It wasn't like how we're going to build them. It was like, how the fuck are we going to sell them when people are so frightened of what's to come in the future? So we turned all our efforts to marketing, and the result was something we hadn't experienced before, something that we've never heard of before, and we've since been told pretty much fucking hasn't happened before. You know, we sold out projects prior to completion, which is an achievement in our industry. We then went on to sell out projects prior to commencing construction, which I've never fucking heard of it. I've had developers calling from Sydney asking if we can get involved in their campaigns because they've never heard of it. And we've just created this, we've created a product that serves a fundamental need that other developers aren't creating. And two, we've found a way to market it that really captures our target audience and delivers what needs to be delivered.
That's insane, man. And even going through, what was your mindset? Like, where was your head? What were you telling yourself every single day? Obviously, we need to pay the bills, we need to keep the staff happy, but like, what was getting you through?
The first part of it was the little bit of fear. Yeah. You know, I told the team that I have $500,000 of my own money allocated to tip into the company to cover the overheads for 12 months. It's what it costs to pay us all and run our office for 12 months. I'm going to put that into the company, so that's it. Fear is gone, but for me, like, that's still scary.
Correct.
To think of putting $500,000 of money I've earned over the last however many years back into the business for survival.
It just makes them feel better, which makes them work harder and puts more pressure on yourself.
Pressure was back on me, so I was like, the first thing was like, how do we survive this? How do we keep moving forward? Then we started getting some success, and it was like, fuck, this is working. Let's double down. We were working 7 days. We were doing 10-hour Sundays. We were, you know, Tim and I were out on site doing sales, getting right involved in the campaigns.
Shout out to Tim.
Yeah, shout out to Tim, 100%. Yeah. Racking up 30,000 steps, not eating, not drinking, like, to get deals done. Then we started getting some really incredible results. The fear was gone by then, and we were like, you know, let's take this for all it's worth. We're onto something here. Let's create some momentum and see what we can really do. And from there, the shackles were off. The mood was different. The vibe was high, and we were just rolling then. And it's been like that for a good probably 9 months now. You know, the first 3 months of COVID really shook us up. Then we were doing deals through video, like FaceTime and stuff like that. Video walkthroughs, live video walkthroughs, selling the dream from, you know, the other side of not the suburb, but some people are on the other side of the country buying these properties because they might as well. Like, they can't get down the road to have a look at one. They might as well buy somewhere in a different state. So, yeah, we got to that point, and it was just a vibe from there. We got more courageous with our marketing efforts. You know, we started doing shit that we never thought we were doing, but because we had momentum, we're like, fuck, we'll see if it works. And that just amplified it. And now, you know, we're doing things that are so far left of field that we won't go into too much because I got to keep some secrets. But just other developers wouldn't consider doing them. And without COVID and without that push, we never would have explored them either.
It's crazy, isn't it? How something just changes, the world changes, then you're forced to adapt. But in a sense, it's probably let's say the best thing for your business.
That's exactly right. You know, there's some sensitivity around how you lead into that. There was so much devastation and there still is from the impacts of COVID. But for us and me personally, best thing that ever happened to our business with respect to everything else that's going on, of course.
And touching on that as well, I think for a lot of people that went through devastation, and I've spoken to people that have said this to me, that it was the greatest thing for them, that yes, they went through devastation, but it actually kicked them out of their dead-end job because they got sacked or they were forced to do something and they were able to chase a passion project.
Yeah.
And now they're coming out and they're building a business out of their passion project, and and they're starting to make more money than they've ever made, and they're happier than ever.
Commercial reasons aside too, bro, like there's people that walk the dog for the first time in 5 years because they were forced to take a breath, and people that rekindled relationships that might have not struggled but might not have been as passionate in the past. I think there's a lot of good that have come out of it.
100%.
A lot of mindset shifts, you know, starting from walking the dog to now they're up at it every morning early, having cold showers and exercising. You know, I think there's a lot of positive that has come, and I think that's the beauty in a devastating situation.
Yeah, definitely. And touch on, you smash out cold showers, don't you?
Every day.
Yeah, talk to me. Why?
I think the first introduction to it was by a guy called Wim Hof, and he's renowned for cold therapy.
Yeah.
And he outlines it better than I do, but there are so many biological benefits of it. It really comes down to the chemicals that our body produces at a biological level when we're experiencing a negative, painful stimulus. So every time our body experiences something that's like, fuck that, it produces really positive chemicals within the body. So then it's like, how do we produce those chemicals without doing fundamental damage to our body? Well, we're not going to stick our hand in boiling water because we're going to burn ourselves. We're not going to set ourselves on fire or do anything like that.
Please don't, Oscar, please.
Cold therapy. I'm on fire, but I'm not on fire. Cold therapy is the safest way to get that negative stimulus and produce those positive biological impacts. And then the second part of it is the mindset, partly because of the biological, reduced cortisol, increased serotonin, all that sort of stuff, but sticking to the routine every morning, you know, when you've had a shitty night's sleep or a shitty day before, or you got something you're not looking forward to, or you've had a fantastic night's sleep and you just don't want to fucking turn the shower cold in the middle of winter. Forcing yourself and committing to that, I think it's just hugely impactful on the rest of your day. You know what it's like, good days make good weeks and good weeks make a good life.
Bloody oath. And what are you telling yourself? Now, there's people listening here that they're probably still stuck, or they're not going through some good times mentally, they can't get themselves right. Like, what are you telling yourself every single day that's, you know, and at the end of where we all go through bad days, you could still be doing extremely well, but yeah, business-wise, but, you know, life-wise, you might be going through some tough patches. And what are you telling yourself? Yeah,
so I think this is something that I worked on a lot through COVID as well. And as I mentioned before, you know, I got a mindset coach, Reggie Savvy, his name is originates from America, and like we did some deep work and uncovered some, you know, some demons and like some shortfalls and stuff like that. And I think, you know, my emotional stability is a huge credit to the work that I've done with him and the work that I'm still doing, not with him at the moment, but just in general. But I think, you know, it's important to note to start small, but also acknowledge that it doesn't get easy. You know, people say, oh, you're used to cold showers. Like, no, that's the fundamental idea behind cold showers, that they don't get any easier. It's every single morning, my brain tries to give me a reason not to turn the shower to cold. You're running late, you're running early, you're a little bit run down. Oh, you've done it every day for 2.5 years, Oscar. What's one fucking morning? Every single morning, my brain tries to play that trick on me. It's a survival mode. Why would it want to go through something, you know, that's appears unsafe to it biologically? So I think it's, you know, it's just those small incremental 1%ers, but then drawing the link between a cold shower and $50 million in sales last year. Like, it's acknowledging that there is a link between those, and, you know, there's countless anecdotal evidence and demonstration of that, and I've experienced that in my life now, and that's just encouraged me to continue down this self-development and mindset journey.
And how are you keeping yourself like positive? So sometimes things happen where a spanner gets thrown in the works, where you think this deal is going to go through, it doesn't, or a building problem comes up and you got contractors yelling at you, or situations where people aren't happy with what's going on and you've got to obviously fix it.
Yeah, bro.
How are you?
That's something that I worked on with Reggie as well, and it's something that I've got a lot of room to work on. But even just yesterday, I had a business meeting that I went to, and we're talking nearly $47 million of sales at stake in this meeting. I shit the bed. Like, I at the time, looking back now with hindsight, a few things had transpired so quickly this morning. I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, I did the right thing. But last night and this morning, I thought I dropped the ball on this, and I was feeling shithouse and begun a process of sort of sorrow and those sort of things. But aside to that, because of the slow training and development work that I've done, I was ready for what was coming. So for me, in the headspace that I'm in now and the work that I'm doing, when something like that happens, I just lean into the fundamentals of what I think is going to get me to the other side. So, you know, I didn't perform yesterday in alignment with my ideal version of myself. And so off the back of that meeting, I'm like, well, what would my ideal vision for myself, if I was that astute businessman that I'm not yet, what would I do if I was? Well, I wouldn't go home and eat pizza and stay up all night feeling sorry for myself. I would get on with my routine, and I would fucking pull my socks up and I'd get on with the job. I wouldn't snooze my alarm, my 4:30 alarm this morning, and sleep till 7 because I'm feeling shitty. I wouldn't. I'd get out of bed and I would approach the day as optimistically as possible. I'd be at the gym at 5:15 getting my workout done, and I'd come home and I would do my cold shower, and I wouldn't drag my head, because my ideal version for myself, he's better than that. So I'm going to do what I think he would do if he was in this situation. And you know, and then if I hadn't shit the bed yesterday, what would I be doing? Well, I'd be feeling fucking grateful for the deal, the $47 million deal that I pulled off yesterday. So then I'll grab my morning coffee this morning, and I'm sitting in line. You know, I go through a drive-through coffee shop, so there's about 15 cars in line, and I'm sitting there and I'm fighting the sorrow, right? I'm fighting the down in the dumps, and I keep going back to this: what would my ideal version, my best self do if he was in this situation? And what would he do if he had closed the deal yesterday? Because he's good enough to have closed that deal yesterday. Well, he would have closed the $47 million deal, so I'd be feeling pretty fucking generous, and he'd probably pull this $100 note out and pay for the next 20 coffees that are coming through the line behind him. So I do that.
You're a
and
legend.
I lean
You're
in hard, and I crank high vibe tunes as I'm driving to work, and I walk into the office feeling $1 million and uplifting the team. Everybody's licking their wounds from yesterday because they all know that I fucked up. I don't come in like that. I come in like I nailed yesterday, because that's what I want to move towards. So I might as well start acting like it. And that's where, you know, people say, oh, fake it till you make it's a load of shit. Well, from a mindset point of view, it's not. Like, don't wait to be happy. Be happy now and let the other shit transpire. So,
man, I love that. I think that is so good. That's such a good mindset to have. And in a sense, you could even, I somehow look at it, if, for example, if a deal didn't go right, I always say to myself, I never had it anyway. So if I didn't have, I don't know your situation, but I didn't have it anyway, and it wasn't meant to be, and there's always going to be something else. And, you know, I'm sure it probably taught you a few things. You probably made a few mistakes that you probably won't make again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't deserve it. I wasn't at the level that I needed to be to get to that. So I don't dwell on that. I sit in it a little bit, and I feel it, and I use that as motivation moving forward, and I reflect on it. Where did I fuck up? And yesterday I could name 10 places, and sometimes I can only name one, but I do that. But then quickly I move back to, how should I have been, and how do I get to what I should have been like? And those are the small steps of get up, gym, cold shower, you know, that act of generosity this morning. The $100 in my $100 note in my wallet, there'd been a few of them in there for fucking 3 months, because no one pays cash anymore. It's annoying. I'm like, it is not going to make any difference to my life financially, but handing over that money, I felt like a king. I sat in line looking in the mirror at, you know, the girl behind me getting a coffee and going like, what? No one's paying. And then the guy behind her being like, and then my coffee comes, and, you know, the girl serving the coffee is like, everybody's over the moon. And straight away, that has lifted my moon. The faking it has transpired to now I've got a little kick of like, fuck, I am grateful, I am generous, and that just moves forward. I crank the right tunes, and I show up to work feeling $1 million. That feeling, that energy is reciprocated.
Energy,
all of a sudden, we're all high vibes. We're back on the phone picking up where we left off yesterday, and we're closing the deal. So,
that's the way I look at it as well. Like every time I'm off to work, for example, I play like the same 10, 15 songs. That's all I listen to. I don't listen to music, but I play the same songs that get me onto some level, some frequency that I need to be on. Because when you're walking in, everyone just, especially you're a leader, like you're going in there and everyone's bouncing off you. If you're going in there like with that glum face, fuck the world, fuck this shit, everyone's not going to want to be there. No one's going to give it 110%. So that's amazing, man. And for you, what's it like being a leader? Now, obviously, when you first started, you're by yourself, and now you've got all these members. And what's that been like?
It's been a real transition for me. And again, the mindset work that I've done has helped transpire this quicker than what it would have done naturally. But from the very early days, I was a very polished leader. I was who I thought I needed to be. And, you know, I've developed close relationships with industry professionals now, and we laugh about how I would show up to meetings and what I would wear and how I would sit and how I would try and talk and all these things that was me trying to appear like who I thought I needed to be. And from that began this transition of becoming my authentic self, right? Showing up in every situation as my authentic self. How I show up at home, 9:30 at night when I'm with my beautiful girlfriend and my puppies and we're laughing and carrying on, I'm making jokes, I'm saying dumb shit. Showing up like that in every situation I can where it's respectful. So baby steps of talking differently, dressing differently, and really just having the confidence to be my authentic self across different media channels, you know, with my agents, newspapers, social media is a huge one, to the point where now, you know, I showed up to, you know, nearly $50 million meeting yesterday. Somebody asked me the day before, am I going to wear a suit? I'm like, no, I'll wear a nice shirt, I'll wear a tie, I'll wear some funny coloured socks and my favourite pair of sneakers. Like, I'll do what's comfortable and I'll be myself. And I think once you break down that barrier, authenticity is responded to incredibly well. Like, you talk about walking into the room as a leader, the energy that you bring. People can feel that energy before you get there. The way I pulled into the car park this morning, like, anybody around me knew I was high vibe. The way I came in, the way I drove, the way I reversed, the music blasting, everybody knew I wasn't sad before I'd even got out of the car and opened my fucking mouth. So that energy is so much more powerful when it's authentic. And people can feel it so much more when it's real. So I think that's the biggest part of my leadership is at the moment, is just being my damn self.
Yeah, that's funny. I reciprocate to that like so much. I remember in the industry when I first got into it, I was the suit and the tie and I was that. And then I always tried to be someone else, exactly like you were, talking differently, doing all that stuff. And I'd go into meetings and I just didn't feel me. And then all of a sudden I slowly started taking off and just going more a shirt with some pants, and then slowly I added a hat, and now I've gone down to bloody shorts and a t-shirt, and it's literally like it doesn't change. It just makes it better.
It goes so much deeper than that too. Like, I think the way we dress and the way we compose ourselves is a very easy to illustrate side of it, but then the other side of it is like what direction you're pushing the company. And, you know, I've made a huge shift with the direction of our company in terms of chasing progress over profits. You know, like early days, I was like, I need to chase higher profit margins, because your profit margin is your fuck up margin. When you go into a job with this much profit and you forgot this, you didn't see this coming, this changes because you're inexperienced and you don't know, well, that's what saves you. That's the buffer. But as you get a little bit more experience and a little bit more confident, you can start progressing what's more authentic to you. And chasing margins isn't authentic to me. $1 million a year, $20 million a year, somewhere in between, I'm happy with anywhere. I don't need to just try and push it. So what I can then start exploring is like the social responsibility, the environmental responsibility, setting goals internally for my team members as opposed to the company. You know, big part of my goal setting is I want Tim to buy X number of properties this year. I want my bookkeeper to buy a property right now. I want my construction manager to grow into a higher position. Like, these things that are really authentic to me, that if I was running an ASX listed company, that would be frowned upon, right? Because it's not performing better for the shareholders. Well, fuck it, I'm the shareholder, so I can do what's authentic to me. And I think that's something that, like, once you get that momentum and that freedom and creativity, the results that come from that, like, they're just super creative and they're inspiring, and then the momentum just keeps on going.
I love it, man. It just sounds like a place where people can go in there, be themselves. There is no judgment, and everyone's just performing, and you want the best for them. You generally really do.
And being my authentic self facilitates that as well. If I had fear that was stopping me, you know, I had to chase profits because my ego was pushing me. I wouldn't get what I really want to get, which is like this whole socially and environmentally sustainable business that's uplifting. I wouldn't get that if I had the fear or the ego or the scarcity mindset. So I think once you get the mindset right, it flows from there.
What's been the biggest challenge as a leader? What have you found? Like, what's really hit you hard that you've had to adapt to, or has there been something that really sticks out?
There is, and I think it's misalignment within the team.
Yep.
And that goes from the people that are right next to you. You know, I had team members that we weren't aligned. There was no better, no worse. We were just different.
Yep.
And some differences are incredible. They create inspiration for creativity and stuff like that. Some differences are detrimental. I had some detrimental differences because I employed some people based on who I thought I should employ, not based on who I felt I should employ. So those were a few like teething issues that happened early on. When I say early on, within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
And there was some incredibly challenging experiences and lessons learnt off the back of that. And additional to that is fundamentally the same principle, but with other involvement within the development. So it doesn't have to be employees or team members or anything like that. It can be having the wrong architect, right? Yeah. Having an architect that's like, Oscar, you want to squeeze as many tenancies on this so you can milk it for all it's worth, get them sold and get the fuck out of there and let it fall in a pile later on, like 90% of the commercial and a lot of residential projects do.
Same, yeah.
I don't want to be like that. So I don't want an I don't want an architect that's going to push it like that. I want an architect that is open-minded to me trying to inspire them to bring about sustainable business park that's going to be an incredible investment that prospers years and decades after we've left. So I think everybody within your team, right down to the girl that you buy your coffee shop or the guy that you buy coffee from or the guy that you buy your lunch from, it has to be, you just want to be around aligned energies, and that's something that took me a while to warm to.
Were you like quick to fire, or did you believe like that they could turn it around and hold on to them for a long time and spend a lot of energy into that?
Yeah, the energy was just depleting, and it was dangerous, and I would never have thought I was at risk of burnout, but I was heading that direction, and by nature I'm a people pleaser, so letting somebody down I brought them into the team feeling like I was wasting their time. And no matter how many times I rationalised how they were, well, one, they were incredibly financially supported through that period, but they also got a lot of personal growth and all the benefits they got. But because it wasn't our ideal intended outcome, I struggled with that, and I held on to people too long, and I wasted resources, financial and otherwise, energy being the biggest one. But now, like, we're like that. If they don't fit, they don't fit, bro. And it's nothing personal. And I look at it as a positive. I'm like, why would I waste their talents? Why would I bring an architect into the team who's going to milk this site for all he's worth and then pull him away from that? Where he could be using that expertise with a developer who's more aligned, who just wants to jam as many fucking offices in this complex as they can, right? So I feel like I have an ethical or a moral responsibility to him to say, you don't fit here. And while they might not receive it like that, that's the way I rationalise it to myself, and how I deliver it will depend on the situation and the person and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we want people that they just gel and it just works, and then the beauty happens when you get the right people.
You've been doing this for 5 years, you said, correct?
No, I've been doing it for 7. So
okay,
I think the first 5 were a lot of teething issues, and I think the last 2 was where, like 2 years ago, was when a big shift happened, and my authentic self, I allowed my authentic self to shine through in the business, and I think that's replicated and evident through our product and our business dealings and stuff like that. And then the last 12 months has just been like the butterflies, bro. It's like shit just happens now, and I'm like, I'm amazed by it, but I'm not surprised by it, because there's the right people in the right place with the right leadership. It's like, it's fireworks. It's cool. And
the energy's just aligning. Everything's just working. Everything's flowing. How do you keep yourself motivated every single day? Like, what are you doing? Like, you could turn around, maybe, I'm sure in the next couple of projects, you can turn around and say, you know what, I'm done. Or do you have, is there a massive vision that you have that's pushing you through? Or is it just, you just love what you do every single day? You show up and you're just loving it?
I think it's a combination of all, 3 of those ideologies that you mentioned. The first one for me was a milestone that I've passed, which was get a group of net assets. I keep my personal property portfolio unencumbered, so no mortgages, no debt. But if it was, whichever way you would structure it, for me it was unencumbered, but get it to a point where it provides you with enough net income to have you have a decent life for the rest of your life if you decide, or you're incapable of working ever again, right? So those assets are outside of my business. They're untouchable. They're in their own separate entities. That was the first milestone for me. And there was an epiphany there, and a quarter life crisis there. Was like, fuck, like if I don't want to go to work tomorrow in 10 years ever, I'm in that situation, providing something critical doesn't change. So that was the first thing that come about with a lot of hard work first and discipline. And there was some experimental times in that period of like, well, do I want to start sleeping in till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock? Do I want to start finishing work at 4 o'clock on a Friday and not going in on the weekend? And there was this experimental period of it. But then I just found it doesn't fit. Then the vision that I had very early on, it softened in that experimental period, but then it just come back 10 times stronger. And I think the vision now is what brings the motivation, and the discipline is what keeps me showing up when the motivation isn't there. Because you know what it's like, right? We have bad days.
Yeah.
We have bad weeks. Fuck, you know, some of us have bad months and bad years. But if you show up day in, day out because you're disciplined, eventually that spark will come back, or you'll change and you'll follow the spark to something else. So for me, nothing changed. The spark while it was always there, the vision just grew, and my confidence in myself to take my business to other levels amplified, and all of a sudden I was back on and back up at 4:30 at night and dragging myself away from the office every night at 7 o'clock, and you know, the same on Saturdays. So yeah, it's just a very organic process that I think you need to feel into a little bit.
How do you so you work extremely long hours, there's always something going on. What does that come down to? Is it for somebody that's working, for example, 40 hours in a dead-end job that they're not enjoying, but you're someone that you can work 70 hours and it doesn't bother you? Like, what does that come down to?
So many things. I think the first thing is your vision and what you're doing and the impact that you want to have on the future. And I think having that responsibility brings about a lot of positive influences on your life. You know, we hear of people retiring and dying 5 years later, and it's because they don't have purpose, in my opinion, for some of them. I think purpose is huge. But then you need, again, you know, we talk about people and energy. You need the right support systems to be able to support what you're doing. I have an incredible partner at home. I have an incredible inner circle. Like, my friends, they're elite, bro. And everybody says that, but mine are. And we understand that we all have our visions. We understand what we're trying to do. We understand how that impacts on our family, how our family has to take priority over our friendships. But we all just make it work. And having the right people, you know, Jesse at home, like, you know, without getting too stereotypical, like, I don't cook. I don't know how to use a washing machine. I don't know how to turn the oven on. Like, these are the things that I need in my life. And there's no chauvinistic elements here. If it wasn't Jesse, it would be a cleaner and a cook. And if that was a bloke, then I'm more than happy for him to cook and clean. Like, there's no... But Jessie is a loving partner. She takes pride in preparing the household and stuff like that. And then...
It's a nice house, clean house.
Exactly right, you know. So yeah.
She does an amazing job.
She does an amazing job. Shout out to Jessie. And then the same with my friendships, right? Like, if... pulling out often happens, not making it to lunch, being late to places, having functions that are running from 4 p.m. to midnight, and you're showing up at 8:30 because you've had meetings and stuff like that. No, that's not shunned upon in my friendship group. That's encouraged, right? Like, no, get your shit done, then come celebrate it with me. Come tell me how you closed the deal. Let's get fucked up because, you know, you were disciplined, you stuck to what you needed to do, and now I get to share in that win with you. So I think having the right people is, like, it's huge to being able to do 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And then the physical side of it is a whole nother thing, but very similar as well. Like, my physical routine is stringent because my physical body, within my career visions and my professional endeavors, my physical body lets me down before my mindset does. It's just how I'm wired and how I've built myself, whatever. But I work myself to the point where my body starts deteriorating, and then I have to acknowledge that and pull back. So to support that, I need the same similar support systems, right? I need to make sure I'm getting sleep. I need to, like, I don't touch drugs. I'm not going to drink too much alcohol. I'm going to eat a clean diet. You know, the supplements I have, every now and again, will post what supplements I'm having in the morning on Instagram, and people will be like, "Are you don't eat all that? Like, you'll overdose." But, like, you know, like, I have regular blood tests with a naturopath, and, like, my body has to perform at the level that it needs to perform at. I'm not a fucking athlete.
LeBron puts like $3 million a year into his body.
Yeah, exactly right. So if he's doing it and making 50 million, then I should be, you know. So I think that's something to note too. You know, like, our health needs to be prioritized, and I think prevention is better than rehabilitation. So I'm focused on that as well.
were you growing up, like your parents, were they always encouraging you? Like, and even as you said, you've got such a good friendship group, which I truly believe, and there's a lot of people that are in the wrong groups because they're there because they feel like they were friends with people for so long and they're actually holding themselves back. So that's amazing to hear. But even your parents, I feel like a lot of parents are detrimental to their kids, putting them down and all that stuff. Were your parents always encouraging?
I would never say a bad thing about my parents. Very encouraging. You know, you can be the best sports player. You can have, you know, you're smart. You can be good at maths. You can be fucking gay if you want. They were very supportive people. In case I'm not gay, I don't know why my brain went there. But I had what I would think was a normal upbringing. I went to a mixture of public and private schools. I wore some hand-me-downs only because I idolized my brother. You know, my dad ran a typical business. It provided a living for me and my 4 siblings. I'm one of 5.
Wow.
My parents separated during my teenage years, which I think is very common nowadays as well. My siblings are all incredible people in their own rights. My brother has a great business. He's a concreter still. He has an incredible concreting business. One of my sisters is a stay-at-home mum and she raises my beautiful niece and nephew. So they're successful in their own rights. But I think that I had everything I needed to be anything I wanted to be, but I didn't have anything that the average kid doesn't have.
And you were a boxer growing up.
Still am if you keep that.
Mate, I reckon you still got it. I reckon jump in the ring.
Old and worn out.
Yeah. But how did that play a role? Because I feel like boxing, it's a mentality. You're in a ring. I've never been in one, but it looks bloody pretty scary. You're focused on the man. And how has that played a role in where you are at now? And
Huge.
Did you want to become a professional boxer?
I was a professional, so I had an amateur career and then I moved into a professional career. And I was at the point in my professional career where my circle was telling me, you need to make this a full-time commitment. Towards the end of my career, the last 3 guys that I fought were full-time professionals. They had sponsors, they had no other working commitments, and they were fighting. They were training and they were fighting. And I was at the point where I was at university, I was working 40 hours a week in different part-time employments. Then I was training and then I was fighting. So while I have an incredible record and some great titles and accomplishments, I wasn't at the same dedication to my craft in boxing as my competitors were. So I got to the point where I was, you know, ready to make the decision of, do I want to take this to the next level and become a full-time fighter, or do I want to divest into my business? And I knew whichever one I went into, I was going to do it 1,000%. And I chose the business, and I'll never know if that was the right or wrong call, but the outcome for me has been great. So that was a difficult situation and a difficult decision I made at 21. And you know, I didn't ease out of boxing. I went from, you know, training 20 hours a week and full commitment to my craft to I stopped because I replaced that commitment with my business. And you know what it's like with startups and getting things going. And I took the discipline and the commitment that I had to university, part-time employment, and boxing. I combined all those 3 and I put them into my business endeavors. So I was at work before 5 a.m. Every morning, 6 days a week. And then I was at the office. I wouldn't be home until, I'd always be home before 8 o'clock, never before 7 p.m. 5 days a week. Then Saturday, I'd be in the office from before the sun come up till 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock on a Saturday, I'd drag myself away. And then the same thing on a Sunday. I'd be in the office in the morning, 2 o'clock on a Sunday, I'd drag myself away, see friends, family. So I took that commitment and moved it into the business. And I think, you know, I didn't have, I had very limited capability, no experience, and fuck all financial resources when I went into development. I think the only thing that allowed me to get over that hurdle was my work ethic.
Wow. And through obviously your studying and your boxing and everything, what did that teach you? And what have you still taken? Obviously, the early hours and the work ethic and the commitment, but just being in the ring, what mentality? How did that help?
That helped very early on, but then it got to the point where it hindered a little bit. So the fighter mentality it's obviously very aggressive. It's extremely confident, and often it's narrow-minded, right? It's laser-focused.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic for getting some momentum at the start of my business, but it limits creative flow, it limits exploration and open-mindedness because you're just so rigid, right? I got to get in the office. I fucking need to be in there before 5 a.m. I got to work like 10 men. I got to sweep the floors, right? I'm not above anybody. I'm a fighter. I'm going to sweep the floors. I'm going to screed the concrete. You know, for so long I poured the concrete in our construction company, and now like I don't know where my work boots are. I don't put them on anymore because there's priorities that are more pressing to me than getting on site and screeding the fucking concrete. But that fighter mentality was, I can do it all. I can work more than anybody. So that come with me, and it was hugely complementary to what I was trying to do early on, but it quickly became a hindrance after a few years and a little bit of momentum. So
did you have trouble, or I'd probably call it, would you say delegating tasks?
The worst, yeah, the worst. And for some personality reasons, but then also the mentality was like, why would I? I can do it myself. I can do it better. You know, which isn't true. We all know, like, we can't do everything well. We can't do everything better than somebody else can do that one thing. So I think that was a huge realization for me, a huge growing pain, was learning to let go. I fucked it up a couple of times. I let go of the wrong things with the wrong people, and I pulled it back and held on to it twice as hard. But it was sort of one step forward, two steps back, but then slowly become two steps forward, one step back. And today, you know, my construction team, I have incredible trust in them. My book, like, bro, I remember doing a BAS for $750,000. And I was fascinated that I was doing, and this is a monthly BAS statement, right? We don't do them yearly or quarterly. We do ours monthly because we're at that level. I remember doing this monthly BAS statement and fucking being like, this is phenomenal where I've got this business to. And then I had this realization, and I'm like, you know, I'm turning over $7.5 million this month, and I'm doing my own fucking BAS. Like, what the fuck am I doing? So that was like this epiphany that come about, and from there, that was the trial and error. Fucked it up, got better at it, and to the point now, you know, I trust my bookkeeper incredibly. You know, Tim and the guys, like, I've found the right people, and I've learned how to deal with it within myself, and the results now, like, they're on the board.
Are you now, would you say you've mastered delegation, or is there still, and how long did that actually take you to finally just say, okay, we need to start delegating to get to the next level?
I think the decision was almost like, I remember that night being like, what the fuck have I done here? I built a $30 million a year company, had one employee. Like, I was just doing everything. So the realization was like, I've created this bottleneck, and not only have I created the bottleneck, I've sort of created a hindrance because I can't create future work if I'm too stuck in what I'm doing right now. And, you know, with development, you've got to be so forward thinking and literally 18 months, 2 years, 5 years ahead. I can't do that when I'm doing my own fucking BAS at 7 o'clock at night. So the decision to delegate happened instantly, but the resulting delegation and the successful implementation took probably 2 years.
That's crazy. And over the last couple of years as well, I've seen you go really hard on social media. Like, you're really trying to grow a following. I think you got 15,000 followers now, and that's just growing.
I love every one of them.
Yeah. And how have you found that? Because I know as a person, you know, you're really, obviously, a little bit in your shell, like, obviously, when you had to get in front of the camera. And why? Naturally
introverted. So I think the first answer to the question is why I begun doing it was for commercial reasons, right? I had a mentor early on that he outlined to me all the successes that will in turn come from a brand, a personal brand, alongside a commercial brand, and what that would mean for opportunities and business endeavors moving forward. I logically drew the conclusions as he illustrated them to me, and they were clear as day. And we touched on some of them before about branding and images and planning and finance and all these different opportunities that come about from when people perceive you as Ledlin. Oh, he's a developer. He's probably 55 years old, owns a $100 million super yacht and wears like 3 gold chains. Like he's a shark. He's going to fuck me given the chance. Like when you build the personal brand, they're like, oh, Ledlin, that's Oscar. Like, you know, he prides himself in his reputation and he's about sustainable business. So all those benefits, I drew the logical conclusion. My mentor told me to do this 4 years ago. I didn't fucking make a move on it for 2.5 years, right? Just because I was petrified of it. Naturally introverted, naturally hate the spotlight for whatever reason. Maybe because I was one of 5 kids and I was one of the youngest. I don't know if it has something to do with that, whatever. Yeah, I really didn't like it early on. And it's been a 5-year process of becoming more to terms with it. The first part of it was just sharing some commercial success with my friends and family. Bro, I'd go to a barbecue on a Sunday and I would have a family member being like, you got to buy a property. And I didn't have the heart to, I'm pulling down my sleeve to cover the Rolex on my wrist because I'm just so petrified of putting the spotlight on me that I'm saying, you can buy a townhouse in Cranbourne for 380 grand. Yeah, I should look like that. I'm wearing a fucking $40,000 watch. Like, I couldn't bring myself to, so it was slowly, all right, I'm going to start sharing with my friends and family. My siblings had no idea what I was doing. I kept to myself, so I started sharing with them, and then I would share bits and pieces on social media. It was all very polished. It was how I thought I should appear. And then just slowly the work on becoming my authentic self. And now I'll do lives. I did a live broadcast during the week where I had no fucking idea what we were going to talk about. And while I'm not good at it, I stumble in my words, I stutter, I get off topic, I ramble clearly. But it's work in progress for me. And because I've worked on the mindset, I enjoy it now. If I can offer value to people in being myself, that's incredible. If I cop flack for being myself, well, there's nothing I can do about that. It doesn't matter how many times I tell people I'm 6'3" and black. I'm not. I'm fucking 6'1" and white. So like, if someone's going to hell on me for something that is me, there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to sit in it and be proud of who I am.
Mate, let me just say, you're actually doing a killer job on this podcast. Like, we are not marking around. What do you reckon, Tuzzy? He's doing all right. He's doing unreal. He's smashing it.
Thank you, boys.
And honestly, like that's so good for you to share this. And just something I want to go in a little bit deeper on. Let's go live on Instagram or things like that. Like, how does that make you feel? Like, what happens when you're just about to click that button and you're about to go live and you're about to get 200 people or 500, whatever you get, staring at you? What happens?
Right now, what happens is different to what happened only 4 or 5 months ago. And I keep coming back to Reg, but the mindset work that I did with Reggie, we did a lot of work in this space. And part of that was pick up your phone, don't have any notes, don't have anyone, don't have any preconceived questions or anything like that. It was just pick up the phone, look into it and go live. And there was other, fucking hilarious and interesting, but ultimately super challenging challenges that he set for me to do. And they were dancing in the street and complimenting people and then asking them to compliment me. Like, we did all these, what you would expect to be really embarrassing situations, and this was part of the work that I don't know why I paid him to fucking put me through, but the growth of it was tremendous. And now I go live with people, and I still get nerves, and I got I still had nerves with you. They're gone now, but leading into a podcast like this or a live broadcast like last week, the nerves are still there, but I'm definitely warming to the fact of being seen by people. And it all comes down to being myself. Right? For so long I was trying to be polished, I was trying to be perfect, and I was just worried about people perceiving me for something that I wasn't. I didn't care if it was good or bad, but what I was worried about, that if they perceived me as someone who I'm not, and they could have only done that because I was showing up as somebody who I wasn't. So now in every situation I show up as much as I can respectfully. You're not going to show up to a funeral being like overly charismatic and wearing fucking funny coloured pants, but But I show up respectfully,
Yeah.
as authentic as I can, and the outcome for that I have no control over.
To be honest, when I always think when I pass away, I want the bloody funeral to have colours. Everyone just running around.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But I want to know, what was Reg making you do? Like, you touched on a few things, but
Yeah.
can we go into some wacky situations?
Yep. The first one, which was a soft entrance, was to introduce myself to a stranger. So, fuck, that's an easy challenge, but I'm going to make you do it after this when we leave here.
Oh, God.
Just see your heart rate went up. I'm not going to fucking make you do it, but the feeling you just got was we just walk out here into the main street of Northcote.
Yeah, just got to go shake someone's hand.
Just go introduce yourself to the point where they introduce themselves back.
Yeah.
Anybody. Fuck, that is petrifying.
Yeah.
So that was the first situation that I had to put myself in. The second situation was to find a stranger and give them 3 compliments. Openly give them 3 compliments. Christian, I like your hat. You're a smart bloke, and it's a cool T-shirt. And this is to a complete stranger, right? Those compliments are a little bit challenging, but the challenging part was then to invite them to give you 3 compliments. So I give you 3 compliments. You don't know who the fuck I am or why I'm complimenting you. You're like, this is like a pretty upfront guy. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. But then I say, Christian, what's 3 compliments for me? You can be like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
I like your tie, I like your tattoos.
Yeah, and can you get the fuck away from me? Like, you know, so that was a big one.
Yeah.
Then another one was...
So what happened? Did you dull it? Did they give you... Like, what did you say?
I did it 3 times, bro, because I did it the first time, and... like we had our coaching call, and I did it straight after that in a meeting that I had. So that person, we had never met before, but they weren't a complete stranger because we had this preset arrangement to talk, and I did that with him. But then I thought that wasn't up to scratch, you know? It wasn't the experience that I needed.
Yeah.
So then I did it at a cafe, and it was the most interesting experience because...
They were shocked?
They were completely shocked, but... What happened was when they started returning compliments to me.
So you just asked, like,
in the middle of a cafe.
Yeah.
I set it up, right? I said, listen, this is going to come across really strange, but just roll with it. And this was a young girl, and she was probably like, what the fuck's going on? This guy's hitting on me, whatever.
Yeah.
and I went with it, and she was like, as much as we feel like we're going to fuck shit up because we're awkward, the person that we're interacting with is not going to fuck shit up because they don't want to feel awkward. So they just go with stuff. So I gave her compliments, and she starts blushing and all, as you'd expect. And no, just kidding. And then she starts paying me compliments, right? Yeah. And she goes...
Like your muscles.
Yeah. Incredible blue eyes. Incredible deep voice. She compliments on how I'm dressed.
Yeah.
And by this point... some new people have entered the cafe. There's some people in the cafe looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? What's he doing? But some brand new people have entered the cafe. And the owner of the cafe had taken a coffee out, and she's come back in just as this girl's gone, you know, you dress very well. And she just joins in. She doesn't know what's going on. She's like, every morning I think you dress very well, Oscar. You know, you really take pride in it. And then the girl who I'm doing the exercise with, she has to come up with a second one. So she goes, and you smell really good. I can smell. And the cafe owners, you always smell, and it just become a free-for-all for compliments of me. And I ended up with fucking 10 of the things I didn't know what, and a free coffee being like, what the fuck's going on? And I left that cafe. I went in there. It was quarter to 7. I was running late to work. It was quarter to 7, and this was to the point. Jesse had made me a coffee at home. I ended up tipping it out and going to the coffee shop just to get another coffee because I really wanted to do the experience. So I entered this coffee shop, and it was a typical Tuesday morning. It was winter. It was raining. Whatever. People were looking at the ground. It was the middle of COVID, so energy was just fucked. Everybody was wearing masks. I left the cafe. The energy in the room was just like elite. Everybody was buzzing. They were passing compliments around with each other long after I'd fucking gone.
It just continued on.
It just continued on, and that for
insane.
me, we did a lot. We did a few other ones. We did, you know, dancing in a crowded cafe.
What moves you do?
Oh, just some fucking awkward, like, as you can imagine. Yeah, all sorts of dumb shit. But not just dancing to silence, right? I had to take an audio device to crank music loud enough for people to be like,
no way,
what the fuck's going on here?
That's insane.
Yeah, so I did it during work, and I did it when Tim was nearby, and he was more embarrassed than I was at the end of it. So it was at a cafe in fucking Toorak. And,
oh my God.
We were early for a meeting, at another cafe. So I said, we got there was no traffic. We got there 40 minutes early. I'm like, I'll shout you a quick breakfast. We'll get a breakfast. And we did this exercise in the middle of this. I did this exercise in the middle of this cafe, and Tim's bright red, and we go running down the alleyway after like two schoolgirls. We get up to the cafe where we're supposed to have a meeting, and the cafe's closed. So we call the people we're meeting with, and we're like, oh, the cafe's closed. What are we going to do? They're like, oh, there's another cafe just around the corner. We'll go back there. It's the same fucking cafe. So 5 minutes after I've danced like a clown in the middle of the cafe, I'm walking back in going, it's me again, guys, to sit down and have a diligent business meeting with these professional like bankers. I'm like, for fuck's sake. So
God, that's
plenty
brilliant.
of work, bro. We put in the work, and I think the results have been. I highly encourage people to do all sorts of different work, and the growing pains bring the results. And like I highly encourage Reggie, and if anybody hears this and they want more info on that, I'm happy to introduce them. But yeah,
I want more info on Reggie.
I need some work, and to not get too off topic, but the point where this work can take you, it's limitless. But for where I've seen it with Reggie, and I don't think this is confidential. I fucking hope it's
Hope not.
Anyway, we'll find out. Yeah. Reggie has got to the point where he's been at a 3-day seminar, and he, with a conforming audience, I better note that, he's got to the point where he's comfortable enough within himself, his entire being, where he's gotten up on the table and got naked in front of 100 people.
Wow.
Not shirt off, not pants off, like balls out, naked.
Just like swinging.
Don't know if the thermostat's up or down, but this is me in front of 100 people, butt ass naked. Like, so that is, if
you can do that, you can do anything.
Exactly right, bro. Yeah, exactly right. So I strongly encourage the personal development work, and that starts with mindset.
Wow, that's crazy. It feels like everything just always goes back to mindset. And let's go into what's happening for you next. So how are you looking at the industrial space? How are you revolutionizing it? Obviously, you need to keep some secrets to yourself, but
I'm an open book. I'm hugely enthusiastic and optimistic and bullish about this particular market that I'm playing, which is the strata industrial COM2 market, offices, warehouses. We're bringing in a new product, which I may or may not touching, depending on how the conversation goes. But I'm hugely optimistic about where it's going. I see the fundamental ideologies that we mentioned around the internet, e-commerce, digital marketing. They're hugely supportive, and COVID is just like amplified that. So we're playing in warehousing space, strata office space, the office warehouse hybrid, and we're recently we haven't introduced it to the market yet. We haven't announced it, but
when are you announcing it?
We're announcing it either late this week, early next. So
yeah, this podcast is going to come out.
Maybe we'll time it. Maybe we'll link it up. I don't know, but
So, I think we can do it. Let's announce it. We're not going to. I promise you, we're not going to let it go. Let's. All
right, we'll do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go into this.
I haven't prepared the spiel, but I'll just be raw with it. Yeah. So we're introducing what's called a Flexi Unit. So this is a hybrid commercial unit. It's strata titled, which means that you own what's in the walls of it. You own the land underneath it. You own this building. It's a space that's made of precast panel construction, so concrete walls. It's got between a 4.2 and a 4.5 metre internal clearance height, which means you can have a second-storey mezzanine in there. It's got a roller door on the front. We're developing 55 of these units within a complex, and what that allows us to do is have this additional amenity to the Flexi unit. So Flexi, because they're flexible in nature, they're a product that's in high demand from e-commerce.
Yeah.
So what we have is the Flexi units, the communal drive-through driveway, so you can drive in with a truck and trailer all the way around and drive back out. They're located in a basement that's 5 metres deep. So you drive down into this basement, you've got 55 small business owners all working in an environment. So we're trying to create this energy. Luxury inclusions, right? Polished concrete floors, high stone with stone exposure, painted walls, LED lighting throughout. So everything's going to feel Mickey Mouse. And then the amenity is what really comes into play. So we're outside the unit, we have bathroom facilities, floor-to-ceiling tiles, matte black taps, showers, all the bells and whistles that you could want from bathroom amenity. Then we have kitchenette, we have vending machine, stone bench tops, again, black taps, brushed stainless sinks, soft closing drawers, all this sort of shit. Coffee machine, Outside of the kitchenettes, we have co-working office space. So
Wow.
this is where the dynamic of the asset comes into
Wow.
play. It's like you have an e-commerce business, which is like the highest performing industry. At one point last year, it was the only performing industry. The highest performing industry in the country and probably the Western world at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
They take their Flexi Unit that's as small as a single car garage or as large as a small warehouse. They have their Flexi Unit set up with their dispatch, their racking, their stock, and then they have their laptop set up in the communal office space, in the co-working office space with the co-working Wi-Fi, all the communal lighting, a couple of windows beside the ramp, so we've got natural light coming in, we've got open windows for cross-flow ventilation, and they're processing their orders from their laptop, doing the dispatch from their Flexi Unit. We've got the same thing happening with trades coming and going. The whole entrance, the whole complex is gated. All the tech you can imagine, right? You can check the CCTV of the whole complex from your mobile phone. You can open your roller door from your mobile phone to let delivery drivers in, let employees, suppliers in, stuff like that. So it's a product that it's not, we've trademarked the word Flexi, the Flexi with an IE because we're a little bit fancy.
Yeah.
It's a brand new product, which means education from start to finish, right? When we met with architects, they're like, oh, we'll cram these things in. We're like, no, we want communal car parking. We want a car wash bay so you can come down, you can knock off work early on a Friday afternoon, hose your car down before you go on a date, see your girlfriend, whatever. We want delivery drop-off zones. We want a container loading bay so import-export can rent the container loading bay for a small fee from the owner's corp that goes into the sinking fund, drop a container there for 3 days, unload their e-commerce product that they've bought and then fuck it back off again. We've had to explain this vision to so many people. The first one being ourselves internally to be like, fuck, this is something that's really cool to be a part of. The second one's the architect who are just trying to cram shit in there.
Yeah.
So we got to sell the amenity and sell the vision and the inclusions and even down to the construction process because we want to make sure that we're using the right materials to create the environment that we want and the energy that we want. And then from there, it's a planning process because everything that we deliver has to go through a council planning process. And we're saying we're doing 55 Flexi Units. They're like, what? So then we're having to go through who's the target market, what's their movements, how much car parking do they need, how much ancillary amenity do they need, how many toilets do they need, how long are they going to be in there, what sort of lighting do they need, what's the ventilation got to be like, are they coming once a day, once a week, once a month, or are they working from there for 6 hours? These are the things that we have to go through with council. We have to be really personable about what we're trying to create and the vision that we're trying to create. You can't just slide a plan across the table and deliver that vision. So we've got to be there to go through that process. Then the banks are the next ones that have to be involved, right? Because selling property, if the banks won't touch it, you're a very limited market. So then we're like, to the banks, what do you want to see? And for the bank with any asset lend, it's alternative options. They want alternative options or alternative uses for the asset. So they want to know that if I buy it to do one thing with it, somebody else might buy it to do another or lease it just to make sure there's a fundamental demand. So we had to work with the banks to say, all right, we believe these are the alternative uses. What else could we do to make it viable for second, third, fourth, several alternative uses? All right, well, you need wide driveways to make sure you can get trucks through for deliveries. Yep, you need drive-through access for the few people that we will get that are doing domestic storage or, it's 2 years to get a caravan now. There's a fucking unbelievable amount of caravans around. Caravan storage, so to push that fundamental demand, we need to do these things. We need water available. We need good ventilation available. Now the banks are going tick, 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 so they'll lend more and for cheaper. So we've worked through this entire process. And now to sell it, before we sell it to the consumer, we need to have our group of agents get on board with it. So exactly like I'm explaining to you and our audience now is I need to emphasize my vision. I really need to convey my passion and belief in this product. And we've started doing this now off market. We conveyed the passion to the agents. The first people to buy these units were the agents that are selling them, which is something we've never happened before.
Wow.
So we conveyed the vision and there's so much agreement from our channels being the agents that this product is going to go crazy, that they've fucking bought them.
Yeah, I've literally got goosebumps. I'm thinking about it. I generally do. This is amazing.
This is a market that's been there, that's been pushed out of the market. 7 years ago, we were selling small warehouses for $250,000. The people that were using them for a couple of hours a day, the small e-commerce business, the mum and dad buyers and sellers that were coming out of their garage home, they would pay $250,000 or $12,000 a year leases if an investor had bought it to make use of that product. We're selling those same size warehouses for $550,000, $600,000 now. So that segment of the market has been pushed out.
Correct.
So there's 5 years of demand there that hasn't had anything to supply. We're about to push this product through, starting from $99,000.
Well done.
Or $8,000 a year.
Extremely affordable.
Extremely affordable, and a fundamental demand there for it that's been exacerbated again by COVID with, these trades that have survived the test of time. Now e-commerce is booming off the back of COVID, and additional to that, working from home is like a huge new market of, think, interior designers that are going to do a lot of business from their home office. They're going to have a lot of appointments to be out on site, but they still need somewhere to store their samples and their stock and stuff like that. They need a Flexi unit, The sample of the market that we've tested, we have more registered parties to buy these first stage of Flexi units than we have Flexi units. We're going to go to market, and we have a limited number of units of the total amount of units that we're going to market with, and we expect to hit that within 48 hours, which is something we have never had happen before. And then we're going to shut the campaign until a later date when we've got all our marketing material and we're closer to completion. People can see and touch and feel it and smell it. Because smelling it's important. I don't know why the fuck I said smell it. But you know what I mean. Launching... Mate,
those savvy investors, mate, they need to smell it.
Good smelling concrete. So,
I'll pay you $150.
That's the vision. The response so far has been like nothing we've experienced, but we'll find out next week when we launch that.
You're going to smash it. Yeah. And what's the vision with this? Where is this located?
This is located right on the border of Springvale and Mulgrave on Centre Road. So a big business park there. There'll be 140 tenancies. We've got incredible, it's a really young demographic there. A lot of professional services, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of astute young entrepreneurs. For whatever reason, we've managed to capture a largely female entrepreneurial demographic as well, which is something that we haven't happened
you've
before.
Got some pretty big names
cool
in there.
Chicks in there that are doing some crazy shit.
You do.
So it's going in there. This one, we weren't to the point, more so I wasn't to the point where I could hold this $12 million group of assets to myself. But the plan is, after this, we're never going to sell a Flexi unit again, because we're so confident in the fundamental demand for the product. We'll put 55 within every project we do moving forward, but we won't sell them. We'll keep them and then lease them out. And now we've set up Flexi, which the company and brand that we're building around it will manage those on behalf of the investors as well. So we can manage right from you saying, I want a small investment. I can give you the small investment. I've partnered with a finance company that can partner for it. I've got a self-managed super fund specialist internally that can do all that, and then I'll find you the tenant for it and put them in there, hopefully before you settle on it, so we can do it as a going concern. You save yourself the GST as well. So that's start to finish, that's the vision.
Well done. You're a bloody superstar,
Thank you,
man.
bro.
And I think there's been a lot of hard work that's gone into everything that you're achieving, and this is only, again, another start with, oh, bloody hell, you blow my mind. And even... so you're obviously going to keep the Flexi, so that kind of ruled out one of my questions. But going forward, so you're going to be sticking with you've got a fair few developments in the pipeline.
Yeah. So these Flexis, the ones on Centre Road, we're selling those. Yeah. I'm keeping a chunk of them for myself, what I can with my capacity at the moment. Yeah. Moving forward, we're about energy is the word in our office. It has been for 12 months and it will be indefinitely, I think. We want to create the right energy in these business parks, and to do that, we need a certain number of tenancies to help support amenity that brings that energy. So we create the product that'll target the right people, right? We don't want high industrial users. We don't want messy users. We don't want cars being stored in car parks with no wheels on them. So we create the product that targets the e-commerce, the financial services, the almost retail type businesses. That helps create the right culture. And then we bring the amenity that you can bring with 100, 140 tenancies. So we bring a cafe in. We've partnered with a cafe for all our projects moving forward. We've got an incredible operator that, it's not dim sims and shitty coffee. It's an almond latte and smashed avo. So we've got that right. And then we're partnering with gyms. So then you've got the gym amenity close to your working space. Then we're doing plenty, incredible amounts of landscaping to create that energy. We're doing park benches, and we're looking at outdoor gym equipment right now. So you can do a little workout on your lunch break. We're doing rooftop terraces, communal rooftop terraces. We knock off after this in our office warehouse or our strata office.
Friday beers.
We'll go up for Friday beers, bro.
Yeah.
We'll have them on Thursday. Fuck it. Let's get wild. So we're about bringing that amenity and right from early investor purchases through to end user tenants. Like everybody, the whole market is supporting what we're doing. So we're just running with it. Sustainable and environmental business is something that we're hugely focused on as well. But yeah, at the moment, more of the same. Bring it on.
That's insane, man. And I think just a few 5 questions. We've been going.
Yeah, bro. I got to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So
just a few 5 questions. A few tips for aspiring developers. What should they be doing?
I think capital's the first thing. Figure out how to get the capital. If you don't have it, find out where you can get it, how much it's going to cost you, and how you can best get your hands upon it. And then research. So just know your numbers. Speak to people. Speak to planners. Speak to builders. Speak to sales agents, and just know the deal inside and out before you actually commit to it.
And who do you look up to, and what's the greatest advice you've ever been given?
The greatest advice I've ever been given would, without a doubt, be one that we've all heard, is just be yourself. I think that nobody can be you better than you can, so why try be something else? So that's something that has only come into play in any part of my life in the later years. I was way too polished in all areas early on, and now that is just, I don't even know where I heard it. Probably heard it the first fucking day of school. I don't know who told me. 3 different people probably told that me. You know, your teacher, your fucking uncle, and your mum all said, be yourself, you'll be fine. So should have listened then. It would save me some headaches. People that I aspire to be like, I mean, there's so many of them. You're one of them. Without a doubt.
Oh, thank you.
No, bro, of course. I don't aspire to be somebody, but I aspire to be more like personality traits that they have. So, you know, you're very charismatic. You're very much yourself in what you're doing. You're helping people.
Well,
that part of your... Yeah, bro, I'm doing my best here. This is the Oscar charm.
One more compliment.
You know, so I will take that from you, and I'll really aspire to bring that into myself. And then, you know, I've got some incredible people in my circle that are vastly different to who I am, but they do shit that I'm like, fuck, I want a part of that. So I think it's just a conglomerate of different people and taking bits and pieces from everybody.
Well, that's insane. Oscar, thank you so much. Like an open book, as I said at the start, you literally gave absolutely everything. And I hope, there was so much value that went out of this. So I hope that somebody that watched this really can implement some of the stuff that you've spoken about. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Christian. It's been a ball, man. I knew it would be, and thank you for having me.
You're a ledge.